We're going to talk about that now. Huge business at the moment. It's peak time for happy couples snapping up their wedding photographs for their big day. Jenny McCarthy is a professional wedding photographer who has shot around 1,000 weddings during her 10-year photography career and has huge experience in dealing with everything from the stressed bride and a wedding starting an hour late due to terrible family dynamics, awful weather, everything else. And she's in studio this morning to talk us through all these the pitfalls. Good morning to you, Jenny.
Good morning, Ryan.
It's very good to see you. This is your time of year.
Yes, well, it's certainly the time of year for bookings, you know.
Yeah.
Couples generally get engaged around Christmas and New Year, so that, you know, they go off and they source their hotel and their church, and then the next supplier, I suppose, they book would be their band and their photographer. So yes, it's busy.
But you're very much an important part of that chain, aren't you? The photographer. You got to get the right. I would imagine you'd have to have a good personality.
Yes.
Because you need to get on with people.
Well, that's it. I mean, I would always say the two things that you should be looking at when you're looking at a wedding photographer is, A, do you like their work? If you don't like it, don't go near them.
Yeah.
And if you like the work, go and speak to them, because you need to get on with this person. It's this supplier you're going to be dealing with right until sort of 3-6 months after the wedding, so it's the longest supplier in the chain.
After the wedding, you're still there.
Yeah, well, when you think about it, they go off on honeymoon and it's going to probably be about 10 weeks before they see their pictures, and then they have to choose them for their album. So this goes on, this relationship goes on a little bit after the wedding, so it has to be a good one.
Okay, and the wedding photographer, it's important in terms of capturing the day correctly.
Yes.
So you need to throw a few quid at it, don't you? I mean,
well, you know you do. I mean, you'll certainly get a photographer who's going to do everything for 800 quid and stay until 2 o'clock in the morning, get all the drunken shots. But to be honest, you need somebody who knows what they're at. You need somebody who knows the run of the wedding day, you know, when people are going to get up to read, when people are, do you know, like how long the mass is going to take, how long the ceremony is going to take, and somebody who knows everything about weddings.
And where to stand to take the pictures.
Absolutely.
Because everyone's a photographer now, Jenny. I mean,
tell me about it.
5 years ago, maybe not so much, but now you're in the way. So you've got to work very stealthily, I would imagine.
Well, you do, and you have to have the element of control in a nice way, Ryan. So we all know the photographer who's really bossy, the wedding photographer who shouts at people and roars at people and gets... You'll never get nice photographs if you're bossy.
Right, okay.
So you have to be bossy in a nice way, you know. And look, when I'm taking family portraits and bridal party shots, and by the way, I take those really, really quickly because I want the couple to get into their drinks reception. Yeah. I have the paparazzi going on behind me, so I have to tell everyone to look at me.
Yeah, and everyone back off, because you know, I know this from maybe doing photographs and 4 cameras will come up and you're with the crowd and they're all looking at 4 different cameras. So you really need to, you nearly like almost to clear what's happening behind you. Everyone just go away, ideally.
Well, you totally get that. I mean, you know, everyone's looking at everyone's cameras. I mean, even later on at the drinks reception, if I'm taking a photograph of the bride with all her pals, and that's always a shot that I get because they want it all the time, all the pals' boyfriends are behind me taking the same shots. I'm going, right,
lads,
get out.
Beat it. I'm doing one shot with all eyes on the one. So it's a very modern scenario for you to deal with is all the other cameras, really.
Absolutely.
And they're out on the aisle then, and they're clogging up the aisle. You want a clear shot down the aisle and forget about
Fine.
it.
Do you know what? You're going to be my wedding assistant. You totally get it.
I just can understand the pain.
Yeah. Well, even when the bride is walking up the aisle, if somebody stands out into the aisle to get that shot, my shot's gone.
They've wrecked it.
So I'm going, I'll get you now in a second.
I'll share your photograph. If you need. Every bride, I presume it's brides, the grooms don't really get involved with too much of the chatter about this, do they? Or is
well, to be honest,
you don't need to be polite. I mean, is it just?
I insist on seeing the two of them at that first meeting. Most of the time, the two of them come in together, and that first meeting is about. Now, I'm really thorough, Ryan, because I like a nice relationship with my couples, because I believe if that's kind of cemented at the very beginning, it's, you know, the photography on the day is a piece of cake. So they generally come in to have a look at my work and have a chat to see if they like me.
Yeah.
And then I would always insist on seeing them 2 weeks before the wedding. And that's when they come into my studio in Ballymount and we sit down and we have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee and we go through the logistics of the day from start to finish. So for me, the bride is very seldom too late to the church, because I would give them times for the morning. This is what time I'm arriving. This is what time everyone's to be dressed for. This is what time I'm getting you into your dress. And this is what time I'm going to be up at the church to see the boys at. And that way then I've left her half an hour before she's due to the church, so there's no possibility she should be late. So but the grooms do come into me, you know, and at that meeting, if I don't see the groom, I would be a little
You'd be a bit
peeved.
concerned.
Yeah, well, I'd
Okay.
be peeved because...
You would?
Yeah, I would.
You want him there for input, is it?
Well, I want them there to listen because I give them tips, and it's just as much for them as it is for me, because if they listen to the tips, for example, the most useful tip that I would give a couple would be, when we get back to the hotel, tell your families not to check in their bags, leave the suitcases in the car. I will keep them for 15 minutes, then I'll keep the bridal party for 15 minutes and the two of you for 15. So 45 minutes, all the shots are done, then you can check in till your hearts can, like if they start checking in immediately when we get back to the hotel, this fixation about getting the key to the room
and just getting in, just to get into the room, just to have a look, just to see what they're doing, and then you're hanging stuff up, and then you're washing, then you're cleaning up, and then have quick showers.
But not even that, Ryan. You're getting involved with everybody else who's checking in at the same time, so you could be missing for half an hour, and sure, that's the whole time I need to take the shots.
So how do you stay sane? Because people aren't going to do what you want them to do. Then the bride's not always going to arrive on time. People will check in. There's always the need in that Irish way to stop off for an unnecessary pint along the way. So you're talking to us about La La Land, really, aren't you?
Well, yeah, but again...
So how do you kick ass?
At that meeting, I know I keep going on about that meeting, it's actually essential to the smooth running of the day. So I would say to them, look, we're not stopping anywhere. And occasionally, especially when I go around the country, couples like to stop into the local pub. And I would say, I'll tell you what, we'll stop for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And we'll get a shot, and you can pull a pint or you can do whatever you want, but we're going straight back to the hotel. Do you want time at your drinks reception? You do. Well, then you need to listen to me.
Okay. Okay. Oh, good. Okay. So you've got to be slightly
you do.
Bolshy,
in a nice way.
In a nice way. Let's talk about the styles of wedding photography on offer, because some people like a cooler, offbeat collection.
Yes.
Some people like classic, So how would you describe the quintessential?
Well, I would always say there's sort of three brackets. There's that classic, everything is posed, put your foot here, your shoulder there, all that.
I wouldn't be mad about that,
And that's not me. But something.
It's for people love that.
People love it.
Whatever gets
Some people love all this running in a row and jumping in the air and punching the air with your flowers and all that stuff.
Okay.
And that's quite quirky. And again, that's not me.
Is that contrived fun?
It is contrived fun.
Okay.
And again, there are people who absolutely love it.
Okay, so whatever you're having yourself. Yeah. And then?
And then you've got me.
Which is what?
I love to capture the moment. I love to stay back for as much of the day as I can with a long lens and zoom into the moments that are naturally unfolding.
Lovely.
Like when the couple are in the church and they've just got married and the rings are on. I'll know when they'll kind of go, oh, look at the rings, we're married, and they give each other that little look, and I just know where to be when it's going to happen.
Great.
Zooming into all the crack that's going on at the drinks reception, just stay back and let it happen. Lining everybody up every 2 minutes. You're not going to get natural shots.
Yeah.
So
okay. Great.
I would be a very natural.
That is perfect. And I know from being photographed a little bit, and I'm trying to empathise, if you like. I'm not trying to say, because I'm kind of a big deal, which but I'm just trying to say that in photographs, I love a photographer who will just catch.
Yes.
I might be looking there or looking up, rather than look down there, smile, come on, smile. You're just going, oh, it's so fake, and the smile won't reach the eyes, and it's make you uppy. Hate that stuff.
You'll remember what you were thinking in those shots when you look back at them, because you'll remember thinking, I felt like an idiot there,
Yeah.
Whereas if they're captured when you're not even looking at the camera, they're the ones that we all love.
And they are the ones, because they're sincere.
Yes.
And you can smell sincerity off a photograph, can't you?
Yeah.
You know straight away. Can you just explain to me what Pinterest, how Pinterest works for... Actually, what is it?
See that Pinterest, Ryan? I would get that Pinterest.
What does Pinterest mean? Because I know my teenager uses it and has endeavoured to explain it to me. And then the Marcelo who designed our new set on the Late was showing me, and I just saw pictures. I didn't quite understand what it was.
I suppose it's boards of photographs that would give you a feel for a theme. So, for example, if you wanted to have a look at wedding photography, so you'd go in and you'd search for wedding photography, and you'd start making up these boards, and photographs that you absolutely love and that you'd really, really
I see what you mean. Okay, so
I would get florists who would say to me, Pinterest is the bane of their life, because they would get brides go into them and say, oh, I want those flowers, but they're not even in bloody season. Those flowers are totally last season. For me...
but it's a theme rather than the one picture.
Yeah.
It gives you
It's a feel.
So that's why. So with the set, she was saying, here's the kind of thing we're looking at. Going, oh, beautiful. And that's that. And equally with a wedding, you can say, I want that old-fashioned feel, or I want that modern feel, whatever
Absolutely.
it might be. Okay.
But then, and by the way, well done on the set. The set looks absolutely sensational. So well done, whoever did that.
Yeah, Marcella.
For me, it can be a bit of a nightmare. I mean, for example, I had a bride come into me a couple of years ago and said to me, now she'd sent me the email before that meeting that we're talking about that I have with them, and she said, Jenny, I'd love, there's a shot here, and there was a shot of, you know, the toes of the shoes out of focus with the bottle of champers in the background out of focus, and this shot was really detailed. So she was going to have her shoes, her bottle of champagne, her flowers, and she wanted to absolutely replicate this shot. So she came in, and there were lots of other shots like that she wanted to replicate, and I said, you know what, you're actually taking a little bit out of somebody else's wedding and putting it into your own. Just let me do what I do. You know, I know what you're looking for, but just let. And she said, you know what, you're so right.
Good. She needed to be told.
You're so right.
You need to take control. What's your favourite photo to take at a wedding?
Oh,
what's the moment that you
it has
go?
to be now. If Daddy is around on the morning, and I always have to say that because you know, Ryan, sometimes he isn't, and my poor Daddy up there in heaven, bless him,
he didn't make yours.
No, he didn't. He didn't get to walk any of us up the aisle.
I'm sorry to hear
and
that.
I suppose he died when we were very young.
Okay.
And I suppose.
And you think about that, don't you?
Every wedding.
Every girl thinks about their dad,
Absolutely.
whether he's on the scene, off the scene, with us, not with us. You know, it's that thing.
It's the one shot of the morning that the bride really thinks about before that and walking up the aisle. So if Daddy's around, I'll always make sure when we have her in her dress and with all the little photographs taken in the room, I go, okay, this is Daddy.
Yeah.
And I get everyone into the sitting room or wherever we are, and you know, I get her walking down the stairs or whatever, and I just stay back and capture it, and it's just gold.
It's the money shot.
Gold.
You're happy with
always
that.
tears.
What about? I mentioned it at the top of the program, Jenny. The sister or brother who brings along the dingbat hanger-oner who's they've been going out with for 6 weeks, and he's never going to be sticking around anyway, but he ends up like a big galoot in half the photographs.
Yeah. This is
can
a difficult
you Stalin
one.
him out of it?
I completely can.
Is it the right thing to do? Do you feel ethically
well, you know, it's not about me, it's about them,
compromised?
isn't it?
It's just strange. I think it's really peculiar and brilliant.
Like again at that meeting, you know, I would say to all photographers out there, have a meeting with your couples, because I find I could be a therapist, Ryan.
I bet you could, because the weddings, not unlike Christmas, are minefields emotionally.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know, and listen, I've been called the fourth bridesmaid, and I've been called, you know, all sorts of things. But I would always say, you know, okay, so John is your sister's boyfriend. He's only around 6 weeks. When we add in the other halves of their partners, do we leave John out? Do you want to put him in? Now, it makes no odds to me. It's up to them.
But if John is in any way clued in and cool, you just walk away and say, I'll leave that to
out. You know, and she's all emotional. So generally what I do, Ryan, I know this is terrible.
I'm dying to hear it.
I put him at the end of the shot, and I leave about a 2-inch gap in case I have to slice him out.
That's great.
I do, yeah.
That's
but
great.
Unfortunately, sometimes he's in the middle of the shot. We've had to Photoshop.
You just erase him from history. I just think that's amazing.
I know,
it's so sinister. But you mentioned about being a part-time therapist as part of your job as a wedding photographer, because you know when people aren't talking and there's that issue of family disputes. Are you? Do they have a word in your ear and say, listen?
They absolutely do.
Wow.
And the way I do it, I would have a shot list for the day, so it's always the same kind of notes that I write. So I'd always say, you know, okay, Jenny, Mum and Dad, Sheila and Brian, great, and are they all together, loving each other? Yeah. And I might just, you know, ask them like that, because you know they very well could be split up, and if they're split up, are we all chatting? Are we all happy? You know, we're not happy.
Is it amicable? Yes.
You know, I need to know, Ryan, because I always take a shot of Mummy and Daddy together on the day as well at some stage.
Regardless.
I don't want to be saying, come here to me, throw the leg over there.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
they're not together.
Give her a kiss. They haven't kissed for 20 years. They're kissing other people now. How much do you charge? Well, the vulgar question.
Oh, you're very bold.
It's very bold.
I have no problem saying
but
how
we
much
need to be straight about it.
I charge €2,500 for weddings, right?
Yeah.
Because and I'm not making excuses for what I charge. That's what I charge.
Yeah.
There's a massive amount of work that goes into what I do. And after the wedding itself, we would reckon, we actually sat down only about 6 months ago and tried to work out how many hours. There's about 40 hours that goes into each wedding from start to finish.
Yeah, it's a long.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about the images, when the day is over, the meetings are over, the images all have to be edited, colour corrected, put up onto an online gallery. Then they come back in, they look at the albums again, they choose the ones they want to go in. Then a graphic designer comes in, he designs up the album, we send it to them for approval, we're back and forward. There's a massive amount of work that goes in that people don't see.
Now, texts. Let's take some texts with
yes.
Jenny. We're talking with live in studio this morning with Jenny McCarthy, wedding photographer, and so much else besides. 51552. When it comes to a wedding photography, the old phrase, if you pay peanuts, you get monkeys, comes to mind. In relation to the paparazzi, our photographer would say, look only at my camera. It's the only one that's costing you money. Hey. Ryan, Jenny is completely right, says Anne. We had a photographer who got all natural shots, and my friends got all posed shots, and they all say my album is way better. Of course, they're competitive in the middle of it all, but that's it. The posed ones are a little bit contrived. My son got married last year. I paid €2,000. They never got an album, and the DVD was very poor quality. They booked the photographer at a wedding fair, so please be careful when booking is a piece of advice there.
Yeah.
Another says getting a wedding guest Photoshop from photos is one thing, but my mother-in-law got the bride removed by Photoshop after the couple got divorced because it was a very nice photo of the rest of the family.
Yeah,
Isn't that brilliant?
and that can happen.
Wow.
Yes, I've a story actually who a couple got married and they were only together 6 weeks and split, and she still went ahead and got a wedding album about her. Yes.
Just one day in my life.
Yeah, she said it was my wedding, and her mum and dad, only child, they wanted a wedding album for her because it was her wedding, and the groom wasn't in it.
That is taking it to another level. I could do with a bit of Photoshop here, Ryan. I'm 10 years married this summer, and the family photo for my husband's side could do with a bit of butchering. 3 out of 5 sisters-in-law have split with their then partners or husbands, but they're all smiling away at us every day down the hall. Please don't say my name. Don't fancy the wrath of 5 sisters-in-law for the weekend. We have the photos done, but could Jenny put together an album? Is that a service you can provide? So they arrive and go, boom, fix that?
Yes.
Oh, good. That's a service you do.
Yeah, it is indeed. I've also gone out, Ryan, and had to, people who couldn't get me, because when I'm booked, I'm booked.
Yeah.
And sometimes when I'm booked, and then I get, somebody like who's, like recently I had Lisa Cannon come to me and ask me to do her wedding, and I was already booked, and there were tears, and just when I'm booked, I'm booked. However, this other couple went off and got somebody else to do it. I don't know who it was now, but didn't get the shots they wanted. So they actually went and did the whole thing again in terms of got dressed, family got dressed, and I had to go down to Lochran and do the whole thing again.
And do a whole thing again. Good Lord. God.
Yeah.
Well, you see, they are critically important photographs for one's life and memories.
It's all you're left with, Ryan.
It's all you're left with sometimes. I had a complete stranger follow me up the aisle and take a picture of the back of me right up close as my hand was being given to my future husband. And I have him captured in my pictures forever. So you need to police that aisle, don't you?
You see, you do, but you can't really either at the same time. People just do silly things, they really do.
Here's what I would say. I would say whoever the best man is needs to stand up before the wedding and before the priest comes in and says, listen, lads, now, it's 2015. I know you all think that you're photographers, but here's the deal. When we say you can take pictures and go mad, you can, but otherwise you're going to wreck the wedding.
Yeah.
And do it in a nice way and say, don't mean to be bossy, but, that guy on the radio told me to say it. You can blame me.
Do you know what the priest is very often asked to do now? Ask people not to put pictures up on Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah.
And I completely get that.
Yeah, it's so intrusive.
It's so instant as well, Ryan. You take a picture and 2 seconds later, everyone has it.
Yeah, we've heard of people saying that the rush to be first has led to disappointed brides not being able to share their photo of the good news because other people got there. This is the instantaneous nature.
It's bad in a way.
I think it's disrespectful as well.
Yes, it is.
I'm so disappointed with my wedding photographer, says the text. Never mind the fact that she didn't get any shots of the full bridal party. All the pictures are really white and we all look so pale. Is there anything I can do?
Well, if she has raw files, she would ask the photographer, do they have raw files? And, some of them shoot in JPEG. And what that means is you can manipulate, to a certain extent, but you can't pull the brightness back. If you have a raw file, you can absolutely pull it back. Another
text says, I agree 100% with Jenny on the precious meeting. If my sister had that meeting, the previous meeting, I think the photographer would have been a lot more comfortable. He didn't know who was who, and there was a large family, so that would have been helpful. Yeah. I'll be married 21 years this April, and we do not have one decent photo. The photographer was, wait for it, a friend of the husband's family.
Listen.
He was a professional, but all the shots of people in the background, plants growing out of heads and out of focus, and I'm still not over 21 years later.
I can only imagine.
Well, peanuts and monkeys, remember that. Jenny, thank you so much.
Thank you,
How can people, do you have a site, or can people find you? Or
www.photosbyjen.ie. Go on there and you can see all my wedding work and my newborns and my portraits and
all
you
there.
even, Ryan, you're on there.
Of course you did is that the one we use on our Facebook page?
Yes, I did all the radio presenters.
Well, if you can do that, you can do anything. Thanks so much for that, Jenny, and good luck with everything.
Thanks so much.
See you.